the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, according to the Washington Post, last night they ruled that workers may not be fired for their sexual orientation. This is a huge deal when you consider there are at least 28 states in the United States that do not have any protections on the law for the LGBTQ community. So this is a huge deal. This is the highest, the Seventh Court Circuit. They're the highest court in the country to find that the 1964 Civil Rights Act, quote, protects gays from workplace discrimination, according to the Washington Post. And so this is the Chicago-based appeals court. They found in a case dealing with the with the plaintiff in this case, Kimberly Hively, was improperly passed over for a full-time job at Ivy Tech Community College in South Bend, Indiana, because she was a lesbian. They went on to say, quote, while the Civil Rights Act does not explicitly prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, it bars sex discrimination. And so the court concluded that the college engaged in sex discrimination by stereotyping Hively based on her gender. Did I say agenda? I meant gender. Thank you. At least I heard myself say it wrong. But forget about me. This is a great story. It's not over. It's not over yet because the Atlanta-based appellate court ruled pretty much the exact opposite. They interpreted Title VII of the Civil Rights Act much more narrowly. They found that sexual orientation was not protected, was not a protected class under that law. And so now you have two competing decisions, which ultimately means the Supreme Court is going to have to weigh in on whether or not the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects people based on their sexual orientation. This would not be so much of an issue if, on a state-by-state level, states protected LGBTQIA Americans from discrimination based on their orientation or their gender identification. But you have states that are so hell-bent on their worldview and imposing that worldview on their community that they have left people open to actual discrimination. Like you can be denied a job or fired because you're gay or you're lesbian. And I think when you put it in very simple terms like that, anyone who's reasonable would agree that that should not be tolerated in the United States. But here we are on this side of the argument, and it's getting ready to go to the Supreme Court, which is why Neil Gorsuch's confirmation, if it happens, is so significant. Because Gorsuch is clearly going to side with the Atlanta-based appeals court, basically saying that the law does not, Gorsuch is an originalist. He's a strict and he has a very strict view of not interpreting the law, but carrying out the law. I digress. But the point is that this is a major decision that's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. As it stands right now, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit has made it possible because they have found quite opposite of what the Atlanta-based the 11th Circuit in Atlanta found, that the 1964 Civil Rights Act actually does protect people based on their sexual orientation.